Garoppolo. Thrown down. Brian Burns gets there. Spider-Man. What a pass rush by Burns. See how quickly he got to the edge and got
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. Yes, welcome to another edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on the Bleav Podcast Network.
Do you believe?
I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated beat writer Schuyler, Callihan, and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. You can catch us each week here on the Bleav Podcast Network and, of course, the video version on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. Lots to get to. This is the one after Super Bowl 58. We won't necessarily get into the nuts and bolts of what happened during the game because it was 2 days ago, but there's a couple things from the game that I think we can kind of discuss. And one of the things I wanted to get into was the actual Travis Kelce, Andy Reid bump on the sideline bit, because I have the luxury of having 2 gentlemen with me that have actually played organized sports before. So I've been getting into social media debates about this all day yesterday. And there was one thing I realized at the end of the night that kind of struck me as being a little odd. So I'll get these guys ideas about that here in just a bit. The Usher halftime show, where do you rank it all time? I thought it was actually pretty good. A couple parts that he might have been able to do without. We'll get into that as well. And the Chiefs, is this a dynasty at this point? They won 3 Super Bowls in the past 5 years. They seem to believe it is. I think they may very well be right. And who's going to stop it going forward? So we'll get into all of that and more. Excuse me, in just a bit. But before we do that, a word from our sponsors over at Bet Online. With the Super Bowl over and the NBA season in full swing, Bet Online has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's the best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get in action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And again, I want to start off with the whole, what was, I guess, second quarter or so. The game was kind of rock fight for most of it till about the fourth quarter and into the overtime period. A frustrated Travis Kelce runs over to Andy Reid and screams something in his face. His momentum bumps the guy. I didn't see a whole lot of people talking about this, honestly, on TV yesterday, which was kind of surprising. I did, however, see a lot of this conversation on social media, in my feed in particular, where people were passing around this like post that somebody had typed out or whatever about how we shouldn't automatically look for dirt on people and enjoy the good stuff and all this blah, blah, blah. That has nothing to do with what happened. It literally has nothing to do with what happened. So I wanted to get my guys' opinion on this because, Schuyler, you've played organized football. Stu, obviously, you've played organized football. Has that ever happened to you on a sideline where you've seen a player bump a coach or get in their face to that degree? And what happened to that player when when that happened? Because that to me is the thing that's blowing my mind, that everyone's just like, oh, he's human. Humans make mistakes. Of course they do, but that doesn't mean you get to make them and then there's no repercussion for it. So, Schuyler, I'm going to start off with you first. Have you, in your playing career, did you ever see a player do something? Was it you? Did something to this effect? And if so, what happened?
I was a pretty feisty player. I kind of wore my emotions on my sleeve, probably more than I should have. But I never got that heated with a coach. I've got into it with a coach before, but not to that level. I have had, though, 2 experiences where one of my teammates got pretty involved and had some feisty things to say. I never came to a point where he got shoved or anything like that, but this is kind of speaks to, I guess, the situation. Like, one of the kids that it happened, it was back in, I think, maybe my middle school days, and player was kind of like a no name player, just kind of, was upset that he wasn't playing, so on and so forth. Well, it happened in like the third quarter of a game. We were getting blown out, and he never saw the field the rest of the season. Now, there was only 2 or 3 games left, but when you do something like that and you're a player that's not playing a whole bunch, you're not really helping your cause. The other one, I Bleav, was my freshman year. I can't remember, but one of the better players on the team, running back, he did it. He got a little bit of a chewing on the sideline. He was right back out there. So like, and I think that's kind of I mean, maybe more so at the lower levels. I don't obviously have that NFL experience like Stu has, but I think in Travis Kelce's situation, had that happened during the season, it might be a little different. It's the Super Bowl. You need your best players out there, and I think the frustration, it just boils over. And I think for Andy Reid, he understands, like, look, he's pissed off. I'm pissed off too. We've just got to move on. And I think a lot of people are blowing it out of proportion. Is it something he should have done? No, but I think it would have been handled probably a little bit differently if it wasn't the Super Bowl.
Stu? Because I honestly have no idea where you're going to go with this one. Because for me, I feel like you could go either way. Like, I really have no idea your take on this. After you saw it, what was your reaction? And has that happened to you? Was it you? Have you done that before on a sideline with a coach? Or have you seen a teammate do it? And what happened to that player when it happened?
Well, first of all, kids, rule of thumb in professional organized football, or any sport of that matter, you are not to go up to your head coach, an elder at that, and bump him and scream off the top of your lungs how you feel about what's going on in the game.
The man's 65.
And obviously this is an emotional game. This isn't a playoff game. This isn't a preseason game. This isn't practice. This isn't a regular season game. It's the Super Bowl. So your emotions are running high. And, a player like Travis Kelce, he's a Hall of Famer. He's the greatest tight end of all time. It doesn't excuse you for acting the way you act. Part of the reason why you are one of the greatest is because you have shown to carry yourself in a manner that is respectful to others, given any circumstance. To whom much is given, much is required. And, I think that is something that absolutely needs to be registered. As far as, what is expected from a guy of his stature, from any athlete at any level. You don't ever go up to, your coach. You can express how you feel, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? Like, we have the freedom of speech, but you don't got the freedom of any physical altercation.
Put your paws on them, yeah.
You can't put your paws on them. You can't, bump a guy. Because if Andy Reid wasn't, I'm pretty sure Andy's in the 320 range.
Yeah.
And so if he wasn't 320 pounds, if he was Schuyler size, Schuyler would have been on the floor. And that would have been a whole different part of this discussion. But
he wobbled. He didn't fall down.
He wobbled. He was, hey.
He called it a cheap shot.
So
just think about it this way. Could you imagine, like, I don't even know, like Sam Laporta coming up and doing that to Dan Campbell?
He might have bounced off of Dan Campbell. The way Dan Campbell, he might have hit him back. Who knows? So I've had a day to absorb this and see what was going on online. And honestly, I didn't even think I was going to have to use this.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why we mad, son.
I've noticed an underlying theme here where every single person I saw that posted what I saw about, don't go after Travis Kelce, blah, blah, blah. They were all female. There wasn't a single male. And I'm gonna hear it from the Swifties after this. But we've been defending her for like a month or so.
Hey man, listen.
I'm tippy toeing
before
lightly.
You say what you about to say what you're gonna say. Let me give my plea. I have nothing to deal with whatever Desmond about to say about y'all Swifties. Taylor Swift.
It's not about them.
Let's rock till we rock. I hope you come out a new album. My daughter loves you. Now go on.
But I noticed it was the same ones that I saw a day or two earlier. They were like, I just got my new Super Bowl gear, and it'd be like a sweatshirt that says I'm a fan of Taylor Swift's boyfriend or something like that. And I'm like, okay, all that's fine. We've said all that's fine. It's brought new eyeballs to the sport, brought young kids to the sport that may have normally not watched the NFL. All this is fine. I have no problem with Taylor Swift being in the games or them showing her or any of that stuff. I did have a problem with this, though, when people were like, it's okay. Well, not necessarily it was okay, but that, yes, he was wrong, but he's a human and humans make mistakes and things of that sort. It felt like he was getting a pass because he's Taylor Swift's boyfriend. And that's where I landed on. Because let me ask you guys this. If Fred Warner had done that to Kyle Shanahan in that same part of the game, what would the public reaction have been?
Be a different narrative, that's for sure.
Completely. And you can't ignore it. And every time I've asked that question online, people ignore it. They ignore that part of the question.
I think what's happening right now is, it's all emotions. Everyone's having their own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And, Travis was wrong, period. Shouldn't have done it.
It didn't help. It didn't help that Andy Reid diffused it at the end of the game.
But I think at the end of the day, the magnitude of what's important in the society, the reality is that this was a Super Bowl. Now, how things played out, if they would have lost, I think this would have been part of another discussion. Wow, where, oh man, the Chiefs are falling apart. Yeah. Andy Reid can't control his players. Travis Kelce is a spoiled little boy or whatever. Like,
remember, this is the first time.
But
he just did it last week.
Not to say that Travis Kelce is a spoiled little boy. He's a grown man, and he shows that every day when he puts them pads on. So, but I think the narratives will change, given the outcome, and the subject and the matter and the money about what happened on Sunday is about the Super Bowl. And so the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So the narrative and the talk and what people are going to point people towards is the money. We need to celebrate the Chiefs now. Okay, so if you want to talk about Travis Kelce, we not about that because we about this money, right?
But they've been talking about him all year. That's my point. Like they literally focused on this man and his private life all year, and he actually does something at work that's frowned upon, and everyone just lifts their hands from it. Like, we didn't see that.
I just told you why, man. The reason why is because ain't nobody got time for that. That's really no one has time to talk about Travis Kelce and his coach having an altercation on the sideline that ultimately didn't matter because now they're both happy with the Super Bowl.
They laughed at it in the post game, like together.
They're like, geez, guys, ha 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 ha.
All the time. He's very much
lost. Now, if they would have lost, it would have been, Travis. We're gonna have some words. We're gonna have some words, Travis.
Let me shift gears a little bit then, and actually get to the actual the 49ers for starters.
I wonder if they call him TK. That'd be a nice little nickname.
I thought it was Maato. Isn't that his name?
yeah.
Maato. Who would you rather have as a head coach right now? Well, not right now, but in their peak. Kyle Shanahan or Mike Martz?
Or who?
Mike Martz, former coach of the Rams. He took over after Dick Vermeil retired. They got to a Super Bowl in 2001. I think Marshall Faulkner. I think Kurt Warner was
MVP.
I'll say
recency bias because that was probably before my time of actually knowing football. But I think Kyle Shanahan's going to catch a lot of flack this offseason because it seems like it's been year after year after year that the 49ers are either in the Super Bowl or in the NFC Championship, and they just can't break through. And you look at a large part of that window that they've had, they didn't really have healthy quarterback play. Jimmy Garoppolo was in and out constantly. They finally get Brock Purdy last year, and then guess what happens? They lose all their quarterbacks to injury. They're playing the NFC Championship without a quarterback.
Yeah.
This year, they finally get there. They get to the Super Bowl, and they run into Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I think I saw in his 3 Super Bowl appearances, he's faced Patrick Mahomes, and Tom Brady when he was with the Falcons. I mean, let's be honest. How many guys are going to win a Super Bowl when you go up against those 3? And look, you're going to face those types of guys when you get there. But I think Kyle Shanahan is a hell of a coach, and he's going to get himself a Super Bowl ring. It's just a matter of time. I mean, he's had a lot of things that have went against him. Now they're going to go through some changes this offseason. Like we've already seen some stuff out there about Brandon Ayuk and a lot of, George Kittle kind of on the downside of his career. Like who knows? I don't know, but they're going to be fine. They're going to be back in it next year. I actually think they're probably my way too early NFC favorite. And that's not just because they got to the Super Bowl, but I think they're going to be the head and shoulders favorite in my opinion.
Yeah, they're still stacked. Like I'm sitting there trying to think of they might
anything that people have to say about the 49ers, as far as being a bust or whatever. Listen,
they had the game won.
In your feelings right now, which you should be. You should be salty because y'all just lost the Super Bowl, but you made it to the Super Bowl. Not everybody else made it to the Super Bowl, but to that point, they're stacked.
Yeah. Both sides.
I think the turning point of the game was the muff punt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like Super Bowls are all about who's going to show up that day. I feel like San Francisco made a lot of great plays. They made a lot of good special teams play. I mean, the receiver, number 84, what's his last name? Conley. Yeah, I mean, he was down just running. He was the first one down there on every punt, smacking a guy. I mean, they were out there making plays, turnovers, coming up with, big plays on defense. And, but when it comes to pivotal moments in a game like this, that muff punt, that was a shifter. Whenever you have a special teams play go wrong, that's the reason why they say special teams, be special. We need you to be special. Because a lot of times these games are determined by something happening on special teams, whether it's a missed extra point, a missed field goal kick, a muffed punt, a blocked punt. So a blocked field goal kick. There's just so many things that can transform a game, and I think that's what really happened to the Niners there. And then obviously too, one of my keys to victory for them was to run the freaking ball. Like this was a game where C-Mac should have had 20 carries before the fourth quarter.
He had 30 touches, I believe, 30 plus touches overall. I think he finished with 22 carries or something, 7 catches.
He finished with 22 carries, but it's the Super Bowl, bro.
Yeah, they went away from him. They went away from him.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what got y'all to where y'all are. I don't care he's the offensive player of the year for a reason.
Right. Yeah.
And so that one drive where they actually fed him 4 times maybe on the run. That was the drive. That's what you could have been doing the whole entire time if you just stick with it, right? And I think sometimes when you get, offensive coordinator he's definitely blessed, right? Like he's gifted in the sense of how he can call plays and how he, gets guys moving around. Like, don't go tit for tat in a situation like this.
We see teams do that against Mahomes all the time, and it always fails.
I can't stand it. Like you're here to win a Super Bowl, not to prove a point.
Yep.
Like we get it. Like, all the talk about, your quarterback and all the talk about, who's the better offensive mind and all this stuff. Like right now you're sitting, there thinking to yourself, man, I wish we could have did this better. I wish we could have did that better. And I've been a part of that. I've been on that side. I've been on that side of, man, if we could have just did this, man, if we could have just stuck to this plan, if we could have just changed the protection on this. There's so many things of woulda, coulda, shoulda that you just go back and say, man, now we can't do anything about it.
There's one part of it that I actually do like, and this is kind of very controversial too. The whole decision to take the ball first in overtime, I actually like it.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to ask that question to you guys because it almost felt like San Francisco. It felt like some of the players didn't know the new rules to overtime. Because with the new rules, it almost feels like it benefits you to defer instead of
not
taking
necessarily. Right? I mean, like,
it depends on your mindset,
right? Like for me, like if you go down and score, then the other team knows they have 4 downs the whole way down the field. But the thing is, say San Francisco doesn't even move past the 50. Is Kansas City going to go for it on 4th? And if they punt the ball away and they get it at their own 20, are they going to go 3 and out and go for it on 4th down? No, they're going to punt. So it's not necessarily that they're going to get 4 downs every time. That's only if you score. But by scoring, you also put the pressure on them to have to go all the way down the field. You have no idea. There could be a botched snap, a fumble, a pick. There's a lot of things that go into it. That's why I don't mind going for it or taking the ball first. Because, and then too, like Shanahan was saying, if you go down and score, the other team comes back and matches it, you have a chance to go end the game.
True. Yeah.
So I get the whole you've got 4 downs, but that's only if you make it a field goal or touchdown on that opening drive. If not, Kansas City's going to do the same thing if they get stopped. They're going to pump the ball back to you.
But the reverse of that could be if they deferred, you're putting the power into your defense that's played well all night. And if they can just stop them from scoring completely, all you got to do is go down and kick a field goal and you win the game, right? Because they've already got possession.
I don't think it's necessarily a wrong way to go about it. Like, I think it's pretty damn fair.
It's all about the DNA and the momentum of the game. So, like, if your defense is playing really well, which both defenses were, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they really were.
For the most part. And so my mindset would be, hey, look, defense, go out there and stop them. Make it easy on our offense. Period. That's the way I would go about it. Then you have an offensive mind that's like, nah, we're going to go out there and set the tone. They're going to have to play catch up. You know what I'm saying? So you can see both sides if that's the case.
Yeah, and that last Chiefs drive when they had to go score a touchdown, I think they had was there a pass interference or something in there? Something kept that drive alive, like some kind of penalty or something. I remember. Was it? Yeah. I think it was pass interference. Something happened.
It was
gave him automatic first down.
It was holding. It was wasn't pass interference. It was just a holding call.
It was, right? But it was something that if they had not done that, they could have basically been done. And then I've also saw too. I don't know how accurate this is, but on the last play, which coincidentally was the last play that the Chiefs ran, I think when they beat the Eagles last year.
Or the corn dog play.
Yeah. Someone was saying there's an offensive lineman downfield. It should have been a penalty.
I mean, there's a lot of things that. Hey, listen, let's listen. We're not taking anything away from the Kansas City Chiefs.
No.
But I will tell you this: there was a lot of holding calls that went unnoticed.
Yeah, bro, like all day.
I was like, "Ooh, are they gonna call that? Oh my god!"
Like I was watching Duke Carolina basketball
like a tote bag.
Because the Duke Carolina basketball game, they were calling no fouls like the whole night. I'm like, what is going on? Like that I heard that slap in my living room. You're not calling it, and it felt like they were just kind of letting them play on Sunday. If you guys, if you're in the galley and you want to, in the gallery and you want to chime in, like Devin here, he says, I think the 49ers last 8 offensive plays were 7 passes, 1 run. You can't beat the Chiefs passing. He is right.
Yeah. Where was the ball spotted out on the final play? Because isn't it 5 yards? You have to be downfield.
Yeah, something like that. And they were, you know what? I can go probably find the picture while we're doing it.
I don't think it would have mattered, right? If they were inside the 5.
I don't think it would have either.
I thought they were at like the 3 or the 4. So, I mean, if they were at the 3 or the 4, then I don't even think it'd be possible for illegal man downfield.
They did, and shout out to defensive coordinator Steve Wilkes for San Francisco, because the San Francisco defense held Kansas City to 3 points basically over 3 quarters.
They didn't score on any turnovers.
Right. They didn't score any turnovers.
That's the biggest problem for the 49ers is they didn't score on any turnovers.
CMC had that early fumble when they drove all the way down the field, and then they punched the ball out on somebody else again, and they couldn't convert. You're right. In a game that tight, you got to convert those turnovers. You can't give Pat Mahomes air, and that's kind of what they did. When they got to the fourth quarter, I was like, I heard my voice in my head. Don't bet against Pat Mahomes after January. I was like,
I heard your voice all throughout that game. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, look, Patty Mahomes, I'm never doing it again.
He's the truth, man. He's the damn truth. So now that actually leads me to the question I was thinking of when that game ended. Has Mahomes entered? Forget the whole has he caught Brady yet? Because he hasn't. He ain't caught Brady yet. He's on the road. He sees his tail lights, but he hasn't caught him yet. But has Mahomes hit 90s Jordan level of dominance in terms of as long as he's healthy and playing, no one in this conference is eating. Like no one can get to the Super Bowl because of Pat Mahomes.
Well, here's what makes it more impressive. He's got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I mean, just quarterback after quarterback.
Justin Herbert's in his division. Like
Jordan didn't have that kind of murderer's row in the Eastern Conference back then.
Well, if I count the whole 90s, so like he kept, I'm thinking all the stars he kept from getting to, so Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller,
Gary
Payton. If he played a full season, no one ate in the 90s. Like if he played a full season, because like, people will throw the Orlando Magic in my face for, all right, he played 40 games or whatever before that series, or 14 or whatever it ended up being. The next year, what happened? When he played a full season, they won 72 games. He won all the awards. He won MVP of everything. And then he beat that Orlando team that was a 60-game winner itself. Like, I think Mahomes has gotten to this point. Like,
here's the only knock, and I say this with that Jordan is, in my question, the GOAT of NBA. But the one season that he did not play, Scottie Pippen and the Bulls were still damn good.
But they weren't as good.
Right, they weren't as good.
And I'm glad you brought that up because this is the debate I get with people all the time, the people that try to frame LeBron up with Jordan. That is true. That was a good team in 94, but that was literally the roster from the 93 championship team without Jordan, and they added Kukoc. So, like, it literally, there wasn't a lot of fall off, and they only got to the Eastern Conference semifinals, who they got beat by Patrick Ewing and the Knicks. So I see where you're saying. I see where you're going, but
let me say this too. With the ending of that game, am I the only one that thought they were crazy as hell for not calling a timeout?
Who?
Kansas City. I mean, the clock was running. They had 2 timeouts. If they don't get that right there, they have 3 seconds left.
Yeah. It was like they were trusting that everything was just going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a timeout, you at least give yourself 3 cracks at the end zone. I don't know. It's almost like they just knew it was going to work, because I'm like, why the hell are they letting this thing run all the way down?
Confidence, man. Confidence.
Yeah. They got them where they want them.
Yeah.
It's a mousetrap.
And like I said, they ran the same play. They're in the same play.
Cheese is right there. And we just put the cheese there and they took it.
Man, I'm trying to, just thinking back on that game, Pacheco stands out to me. Angry running. Just running angry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
I love the fact that they, after his fumble, like they're just showing on the sideline, and you can actually see, how that team actually rocks and how they actually respond to controversy. You like, not everybody going over there and saying, "Hey man, you got this." It's like, no, he's got this. You know what I'm saying? Like, because whenever a player, fumbles or throws an interception or whatever it is, bad play, I like to be left alone. Yeah, don't come over here talking to me.
That's what I did. Just leave me alone.
And so, like, you can really see the identity of that team is their identity is a bunch of dogs that want to make plays and that can make plays and have the confidence that they can actually do those things. And so, seeing the sideline after that, no one came up to him. People are just kind of sitting next to him just as usual, and those are all good signs of a good locker room, a good sideline.
Zach makes a great point about the clock and Schuyler's question about the timeouts. They weren't worried about the clock since there was second overtime this year. That's right. It wasn't going to run out at the end of the overtime period. It would have just been like the second quarter.
Yeah, but they were down.
Yeah. They were down. So I don't really know.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
you got a point. It's like, what were they doing? But yeah, they were kind of playing. It did feel like San Francisco, some of the players did not understand the overtime rules, that they felt like if the time ran out and they were up, that was it, done deal. But no, it's a whole new game, like 0-0, like 4 quarters type deal. So healthy Burrow is a problem for the Chiefs.
You want me to bring my weekly Debbie Downer for the show?
Go for it.
Stu loves this part every week. But watching the Super Bowl, and I mean, it's kind of obvious when you're talking about a 2-15 team, but just goes to show you how far the Panthers have to come.
Dude, see how much time they had blocking like the quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Like I was amazed by it. Like
it's this roster, I think, like we talked about the depth issues before, but it's not just the depth issues. Like you have to go get some bona fide dudes. And right now, this roster only has a handful.
Dogs.
Some dogs.
Yeah.
As Dan Morgan would say.
Yeah.
And this, with no first round pick, I mean, and I'm not saying just the one first round pick would do it, but like this is gonna, and I think I talked about a couple weeks ago, it's gonna be like a 3-year thing.
If they go the route that San Francisco did, and that seems to be the plan, San Francisco is like vultures to me. Like they loom around, and like whenever a team has like a guy that was maybe he was drafted really high, he's not panning out, they pounce on it and they get him for like pennies on the dollar, and then he turns into a star. Chase Young, like you said, they got him for a 2nd round pick in the middle of the year from Washington, who was falling apart at the time. They fleeced us with CMC. They got him in the middle of the year. Everyone thought he was injury prone. They didn't have to give up a first for him. They have built their team like that with pieces to fill in, where now it's like the talent level's over the top. And Chase Young's still in his rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken. CMC's already signed. Like they're not losing a whole lot. I would say you can replace a Brandon Ayuk, but it wasn't like he was the first, second, or third option on the offense. I mean, they're set up to go here for a while. I don't know what Philly's doing. It feels like Philly's doing a soft reset almost. You see Hassan Reddick is at permission for a trade. Would you go after Hassan Reddick? Try to bring him back here?
I just posted on my Twitter why it makes 0 sense for the Panthers.
Yeah.
I just did the article before the show. So.
Well, he's what, 29, I think?
He'll be 30 next September.
Well, he's only here because of his relationship with Rule, though, right? Like, isn't that why he came?
I think what you have to do is you have to really take a look at what you have this offseason on your roster, because we have some good players. It's not like we're not a total dud. But what you do have to do is you have to be active at all times as far as the free agent pool, as far as, different scenarios, as far as trade values and trade, opportunities. That's exactly what 49ers have done. They've been building continuously. It's not just an off-season thing. It's not just, a draft thing. This is this makes sense right now. Like, let's go and get this guy right now.
And if it don't work, we lost a second.
And I love how they've been active the last 3 years in that department. You look at going after CMC, bringing him to the Niners. You got Chase Young. Those are those are just two examples of, finding guys that fit what they, are their goals and their needs. Brandon Ayuk, you're just talking about him, like he is probably the 3rd or 4th option on the team, but it's because you have Christian, you have Debo, you have Kittle, and then you have himself, and so 3 or 4, right? I would call him 3 because obviously he has more catches this year than Kittle. But when you have guys, you build a roster like that, that's what makes you good. Because now defense is just kind of like, all right, who do I cover, coach? Who do we need to help on? Like, who do we need to double team? There's two guys that we should. There's 2 guys that we probably should double team here, but which one do we pick?
We can't double both.
And it's the same, and it becomes the same thing for the Chiefs, because if you look at the Chiefs and their roster, they're not screaming, oh, amazing all-star talent. But when you talk about speed, who do we cover? Because if we don't cover this guy, he gonna leave me in the dust. They went and got their boy McCall Hardman from the Jets.
Went on back. Yeah.
Like and that was a mid-season situation. That was a continuous execution on the front office of making sure their roster is being completed by the time they get to the playoffs.
He wanted to come back too. Yeah, he wanted to come back.
And in pivotal moments, it's what value do you place on players? Because if this guy can help us win one game, that's all that matters. If he can help us win one game, and that's how you see them strapping up their offense and their defense, is with that same mentality. It's like, hey, look, you're not going to play this good. You're not going to play probably for 6 games. You're not going to get the ball for 6 games. Who knows? But you're going to help us win 1 game at least.
And who caught the game-winning touchdown? McCall Hardman. And he didn't even know it was the game winner, from my understanding. Like, when he caught it, he didn't realize overtime was over and the game was over when he caught the ball. So
he probably he was probably distraught just like everybody else.
I was going to ask real quick before we get out of here, a little shortened version today. I was going to ask about the commercials like we usually do after the Super Bowl, but to be honest, I wasn't really impressed with a lot of the commercials this year. It felt like
even watch them, honestly.
Yeah, Temu or whatever, that the joint that's like a cheaper version of Wish, where like everything's like 99 cents. They had to spend so many 99-cent buys because they had so many commercials that ran through the series. They were like a sponsor. I was like, how do they have the money to do this? They've ran like 12 commercials.
I'm really actually disappointed in the commercials because you have so much money.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
They have so much money, but they can't find anybody creative.
You're right, yeah.
You mean to tell me you got a whole year to figure out what this commercial is going to be, and you're going to spend millions of dollars to put something on so that way it can be memorable? I don't remember any commercial besides Beyonce's commercial.
I was going to say the Beyonce one, the BOTUS or whatever. She's running to be the Beyonce of the United States. And then what did she do? As soon as that commercial ended, she dropped 2 country songs. Bam. Here you go. Take them. See what you want. That's why she's been wearing cowboy hats the past
that's
month.
Why she went blonde. She wearing
blonde
hair now.
She's going country. Like, and everybody's kind of laughing. Oh, she's trying to do Taylor Swift. She's blah blah blah.
And she's from Texas, so it goes too, right?
Yeah, she's from Texas. Like, she grew up in this. So let her do what she's going to do. That's Beyonce. Like, if there was anyone in the world I feel like could challenge Taylor Swift in terms of,
you think Drake
whatever this is.
You see her. You see what she's doing too. Maybe that was one of her little jabs at
I'm telling you,
Taylor Swift. Like, oh, you think you the icon?
Look at this. I was just resting. I was watching my kids.
Because I can do this. I can actually do this too.
I can just drop it in the Super Bowl and see what happened. Like, and apparently people went to go listen to it. My wife said she went to go look for it yesterday. I was like, I wasn't going to look for it, but it'll come across my range.
I'm gonna be looking. I'm gonna go look for it right after this.
And then finally,
I'm gonna put my daughter on. Hey, listen.
Finally,
Taylor Swift is great, but Beyonce is off the chain.
Yeah, Beyonce, the BOTUS. Like, you need to get with her. So Usher's halftime show. Thoughts on that? Where do you rank it all time? Because it was better than Rihanna.
Oh, Schuyler. Wow. Boy. Don't. Hey, listen. Hey,
no. Here we go.
Man, if I had a shoe with it, I'm gonna send somebody over there. I'm gonna send somebody over there. What they need to do? They need to sign up. They need to create a Grubhub option. Someone to go deliver a slap to people.
They just show up at your.
I can just see it now.
Too.
Next time I'm walking in the halls of Bank America Stadium, Stu sees me. He's gonna get that slap across the head.
Well, what did you like about it? Like, I will say, Alicia Keys was completely unnecessary. They did not do that.
I don't know. Like, Super Bowl shows, and this is just me sounding like I'm trying to get off my like 10 years ago. I think the Super Bowl halftime shows were better. They were just an actual show, people singing. Like, there will never be another Prince halftime show.
Usher was singing.
He was. But what I'm saying is, like,
and dancing.
It was about
and doing flips.
He on roller skates.
It was about the actual
and roller skating. What more can you ask for out of the performance?
He's a grown man that got out of roller skates. It had to be in like 8 seconds. Like, he literally got out them skates so fast.
It just didn't get me going. I'm sorry. Like, it just didn't.
I can't. People always say Prince is number one, but they can never tell me what else happened in that performance other than him playing Purple Rain in the rain at the very end. Like, and I feel like it catapults it, which I'm fine with. I'm a huge Prince fan, and Purple Rain's one of my favorite songs of all time. So it's iconic. But that was one part of the entire thing. Nothing is touching Dr. Dre and Friends, like, to me.
That was a good one.
There was like 350 million albums sold on that stage at the same time. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get that again.
Was that the LA one?
Yeah, and they were in LA.
I'll say
did it in LA.
If you want to break it down to categories, iconic wise, Prince, the most iconic person to ever perform at a. I mean, Whitney Houston's,
Michael Jackson. Whitney never did a halftime, but
Michael Jackson.
I mean,
there's a lot there, right? So, but
MJ,
recent times, man. Listen, Usher's up there in top 5.
I'll put him top 5. I had like Dr. Dre and Friends, Prince, The Beyonce one in New Orleans when the electricity went out. She did Formation and something else. And then we had like the delay because the power wouldn't come back on. That was right there. And then Usher. And then you start getting in the weeds because they had some weird ones where like they had acts that didn't go together.
Bruno Mars didn't do too bad either because he was singing live and dancing.
Wasn't Beyonce with him?
The Weeknd was one.
The Weeknd did.
The Weeknd was the worst. I hated that. Now listen, that was the absolute worst.
Was that the one where they recreated him like in the room with the mirrors, and he's like,
"Dude, where are you? Are you in a box somewhere? Do you need help? Do you need help out? Are you in a balled up piece of paper right now somewhere?"
They did. There was one year way back. They did Britney Spears in sync.
Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake.
Justin Jackson.
There's only one answer for next year. It's got to be Lil Wayne, right? New Orleans.
That would be dope.
Oh, it's in New Orleans. Just do Cash Money. Just do Cash Money.
But you know what it'll be 2 years from now, right?
Where are they?
Taylor Swift.
She's been asked before. She keeps turning it down, which is. I mean, they don't get paid to do it, but
she won't turn it down now.
I promise you this. Usher woke up today with more money in his bank account because everybody started streaming all those songs again on Spotify and iTunes and stuff. That's where the money comes from. Like you get a bounce in the streaming.
Got 52 million.
And I will say, shout out to my beautiful wife Jennifer, who called out about 45 minutes before the halftime show. She was like, "Look, Alicia Keys sings flat or sharp and live, and I promise you, she's going to have a crack in her voice as soon as she starts singing." And lo and behold, the very first note Alicia Keys sang with the crack, and she just looked at me. She looked at me.
You critiquing these folks like, look, Alicia Keys was probably performing throughout the whole week of Super Bowl.
Nah, it sounded like she hadn't performed at all, like in like a year or so, and just hopped up there with no vocal check. It was like, oh, Alicia Keys, don't need no vocal check.
Relax.
Did y'all think Usher was being a little fresh for her? You know, she's married to Swiss Beats.
What'd you say?
She's married to Swiss Beats. He was being kind of fresh. He's kind of touching rubbing things. Like I'm sitting at home, a married man, like, bro, Swiss. I don't know. We can't get into them people's business like that.
But you know, they was performing.
They was performing.
If you was watching a TV show or a movie and you saw some business go down, you'd be like, you wouldn't be thinking to yourself, "Oh, that person's married."
That's true. I can't get caught up in that. That's what he opened up with. Was caught up there.
Although you know what? I actually think, you know, a lot of those types of things and scenes, I don't know why those even exist. Like, do we really Bleav to watch a show or a movie for those clippings, or are we looking for the actual story? I don't know. That's a discussion for another podcast.
Cage Luke Mister says, "I was not thinking about Alicia Keys' voice, B." My mom was all over the place. The game was boring at that point. Like it was a defensive struggle. So we was.
I want to go back to Kyle Shanahan for a second. Mm-hmm. Kyle Shanahan, you know, there's a lot of, you know, roar because of recent times of his experiences in the Super Bowl. Was the Patriots and the Falcons? That was an overtime game, right?
Yeah. Yes,
it was?
That was the first overtime game in Super Bowl history. Yeah, they're down 28-3.
I mean, he's the first coach to have 2 overtime games to lose.
You're right. Wow.
But I mean, look at his career. Wow. But look at his career. I mean, he's young, man. Look, he's still got a lot of coaching to do. And then you look at Andy Reid. Andy Reid,
he couldn't win
when he was in Philly. They was calling for that man's head.
Yeah, and that was what, like,
you had Donovan
years ago.
You had you had some guys, right? Westbrook, like, so I mean, there's just so much comparison there that I think people need to talk about more, right? Like where we call for guys' heads, but don't be that guy that has a receipt to turn over when they start winning.
Yep.
Because they are primed to win. You got the roster. I see them for the next 3 years being like like absolute contenders. If they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs again, they're not going to win.
No,
I can tell you that.
That can hurt you. That got you.
I'm not betting against I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes ever again.
It don't matter who he's throwing to, who he's handing off to. It just don't matter.
Like if you are a betting person, if you have a FanDuel or bet on sports, what's the thing that we bet online? If you are betting online at Bet Online,
yeah, there it is.
Make sure that you just place your bet on the side of Patrick Mahomes. Whatever Patrick Mahomes is doing and whatever they're asking, whether he's gonna do or not do, always bet that he's gonna do it.
Yes.
And your percentage of winning will just go up. Okay, so that's the lesson I learned this Super Bowl, and I hope y'all learned something too.
So before we get out of here, real quick special announcement. We thought about it. We were like, well, what are we going to do this offseason? Because after they hire the coaches, there's a little gap before the draft. And what can we do that will actually be something fun for Panther fans to kind of be involved with? And so we landed on, we are going to build the ultimate Panthers 52-man roster of all time. And the way this will work, if you're not following already, go to Instagram, follow us there at Bleav in Carolina Panthers, or go to Twitter and follow us at Bleav in Panthers. We'll have polls up each week for different positions. And basically, we're going to put up, if it's the linebackers, you're going to have everybody from Sam Mills, Dan Morgan, John Beeson, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and you'll get to pick multiple ones. And the top 2 or 3 or whatever for each position will make the roster. Each week, we'll focus on a specific group and kind of go through the nominees, talk about the players, figure out what it is. And ultimately, by the time we get to the draft, we'll have an actual hardcore Panther 52-man roster of all time that the fans selected. It won't be me, it won't be Schuyler, it won't be Stu. We'll just kind of either make fun of your picks or we'll cheer them. But either way, they're all Panthers, and we'll be able to do that there. So definitely watch out for that. Go follow us on Twitter. Again, my Twitter got hacked. So if you're following DEZ_3505, let me know what's going on, because whoever took it, they blocked me. So now I can't even see what's going on. When they realized what was going on.
You're promoting Bitcoin every day.
I typed it. I was like, hey, what are you doing with my account? And then the next thing I know, it was like, you were blocked. And
if you're wondering why it's only a 52-man roster, well, that's because J.J. Janson's got long snapper locked up. So.
Oh, he's locked. He's in. He's in there. So like, we're not even going to worry about figuring that one out. But that'll start probably next episode. We'll probably be back next week. We took last week off, so it depends on when Bleav gets our graphics together and all that stuff. But we'll have all that together soon.
And
so
shout out to the new coaching staff that's being built right now too. Running backs coach, I really love that for the room.
I like what they're doing.
I love what he did in Oakland when he was there with Latavius Murray. That was the year that Latavius Murray was having an insane football season and basically got put on the map. So whatever he did there, I'm excited to see him do that here in the Carolinas for our boy Chuba. And whoever else is in the backfield.
The last thing I'll say too, watching the Super Bowl, especially San Francisco, it made me it made me remember coaching relationships are so important. Like, you can't just slap a coaching staff together like they tried to do last year. Like the guys that work underneath Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid have been there for a while. Like, they're there for a reason, and you can see the trust amongst them all when they're doing whatever they got to do. We didn't have that last year, and it's blatantly obvious. So hopefully, by starting at the very top with Dan and Dave having that relationship and it kind of branching out to who they're bringing in, they're kind of building something similar. I can kind of see what they're doing. They're kind of modeling the 49er thing with how they built that team. So we'll see how that goes. But Schuyler had to hop off. We're about to hop off as well. Again, follow our social media to keep track of the Ultimate 52. That'll be coming up here soon. You'll be able to participate in those. For Schuyler Callihan, for Jonathan Stewart, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Keep it.